Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins, your housing discussion guru. Guys, welcome one, welcome all to Trends in the Housing Market. Discussing housing discussion from Melbourne to Auckland, and then up to London, and then back down to Perth, then up north, west from Perth to way up to Ireland, across the pond to Edinburgh, down to California, way down to California, and back across to Miami, north to New York, across to Vancouver, and back up to Merritt. It is I, Mike Martins. Welcome to Trends in the Housing Market, broadcasting from Merritt, British Columbia. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and watching this on replay. Trends in the Housing Market is picking up steam in countries like Norway, and people from Norway, thank you so much. Christ, what is it? Norway, what's the other country? Finland, watching Trends in the Housing Market. Thank you very much. You guys watch it on replay, though, because someone emailed me and told me you're watching me at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, or 4 or 5 in the morning to watch the show. Wetting my beak here. I'm all set up and ready to roll. And no one's been receiving, some people do receive notifications, but I've been getting a lot of people recently. I've been getting a lot of people lately telling me that they're not getting notifications on the channel. They don't know what the heck is happening. And we got Doug Washington Bound. Hey Mike, Dallas here. Are you headed to Washington, Doug, to live or to relocate? Do we know each other? Yes, he is. Okay. Yes, he is. Okay. Maybe you could call in and tell us your story and what you're up to, or where you're coming from, or where you're going. Yes, sir. Okay, soon, brother. Yeah. Washington State, eh? Okay, Kevin Thompson got the notification. That's good. All right, guys, welcome to Trends in the Housing Market. It is I, Mike Martins. Okay, guys, let's plug the channel real quick. I want to thank my Patreon supporters for supporting me here, but let's start off here. Guys, all the links are up here if you want to. There's a tip jar, and there's a Patreon, and then there's Instagram if you want to message me. Just go ahead and share a video. I really don't care. Some of the videos are really getting out there and picking up steam. And it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. You're early on tonight. No, Freedom Prospector. 7 p.m. is Trends in the Housing Market, and 9 p.m. is Mike in the Night. So tonight's Trends in the Housing Market. Brenda Lee Mercer says, Mike had an awesome dinner. Nice. I had a nice dinner here with the family before I kicked off. The shop was nice and slow today, so I got a lot of work done. A lot of just stuff done because the weekend gets so hectic over there. So it was kind of good for me too. Here it is. And here is the Patreon if you want to support the channel. So what is happening with Trends in that? Well, there's a lot happening, guys. So I hope you guys are ready for this, guys. Because, yeah, this is what a lot of people are talking about is immigration, right? Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar of preventing a recession. So they're doing everything they can to get more people into the country with money. And that is the key. Canada is fighting Australia, fighting the UK to get in more Chinese wealthy citizens. And if they can't get the mainland ones in, they're going to try and get in the ones from Hong Kong. And they're going to fight. They're going to fight. Canada's been fighting for rich investors. They're pushing their quota from 500,000 to 850,000 a year to come in from China. So that's going to be a really interesting landscape. Canada in 10 years. Woo! Oh, Freedom Prospector said, okay, no. Diana Y saying, we may have QE Summit in Australia. You have to. You have to have a quantitative easing, right? So we got Jordan Retro in the house. What's up, Mike? Woo! So, California has rolling blackouts right now. People on the streets everywhere, says Freedom. Where are you, Freedom Prospector, buddy? Where are you, buddy? Tell us where you are. People on the streets everywhere. Are we talking homeless people? Because I covered the homeless situation right now in Edmonton. Gary Madej in the house. Thank you, Gary, for joining us. Where's Elora, Ontario? Where's Elora, guys? Elora. Diana Y. Look at Joseph Walker on Twitter. Jolly Swagman Freedom on Information Gov. Government info. They want to prevent a housing. Of course they want to prevent a housing crash. They can't have a housing crash. The banks will default. Everything will go into mad chaos. So we got Victoria, BC. Downtown homeless has gotten much worse in the past 5 years. Yep. It started happening around 2016. In 2017, it got really strong because of the mass people. Oh, Moby's in the house. Because the mass people leaving the cities they grew up in. They can't live in the cities they grew up in. So we got Moby in the house. Oh, I live an hour west of Toronto, just north of Guelph. Okay, Moby's saying northwest of Guelph. Andre Moses. Marc-Andre Moses in the house. Woo! I was going to shave today, but I got pretty lazy. Low Roller Scratcher. You heard the NBA apologize to China. Do one Hong Kong pro tweet. NBA only care money over freedom of speech. Of course, it's all about money, guys. We've been shadowed by money. We've forgotten what it means to be. We've forgotten what it means to be humble and happy and grateful to each other. We've forgotten what it means. Oh, God, I'm tired. Anyways, Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar to prevent a recession. So here it is, guys. Told you guys. So it's a big deal. Canada's booming population growth is the only thing separating the country from a recession. There has been a lot of talk about Canada's massive growth in gross domestic product, GDP. There's also been a lot of talk of Canada's population boom, driven largely by immigration. However, few people seem to be discussing what the combination of the two means. When looking at GDP per capita, i.e., the context of population, growth is falling at a rapid pace. Lower than growth has only typically been observed around recessions. GDP per capita. The term is simple enough to figure out, but the reason it's more important than the straight GDP read is less obvious. Gross domestic product is measured by the country's aggregate economic output. So it's what goes in and what comes out, and then how it's what it's charging for its stuff, and it has to do with embargoes on countries and when they get paid and how they, there's quite a bit involved when calculating the aggregation of economic output. That is a measure of the total value of goods and services created, provided by a country. GDP per capita is the value of those goods and services divided by the number of people. By dividing the GDP by the population, you get a much better view of the numbers. A country may have a large economic growth, but it doesn't mean a whole lot if the population is growing faster. By itself, GDP is a world leader equivalent to the penis measurement contest. The primary benefit is being able to compare your economy to another. If GDP per capita is falling through, it means your population may be suffering from a eroded standard of living. Now, what do you care about more? That your economy is bigger than your country you've ever been to? Okay. Your economy is bigger than a country you've never been to, or whether you and your neighbor are seeing benefits of economic growth. That's the key. Let's say we are getting economic growth, which we're not, because our economy has been shrinking every the last 3 quarters, like consecutively. And they keep talking about these jobs. I'm not seeing any jobs. So let's go here in the comments. They're moving fast, guys. Um, less government. China builds fast. 724K is insane for up to 3. I'm not sure what that means. Bitcoin and silver by BPod. BPod in the house, guys. Real Kevin Thompson in the house. Pest in the house. Little roller scratchers here as usual. So Canada's population boom is almost all immigration. So Canadian proper are not having kids, okay? Let's touch on Canada's population boom quickly to give some context. The population grew 1.4% in July when compared to the year before. This is the fastest growth in a G7 country, more than 2 times the United Kingdom. Over 82% growth we're seeing today is driven by immigrants and non-permanent residents. Canada last saw growth this large in 1990 during the last major housing crunch. Canada's GDP growth is also huge, kind of. The headline for number economic reports is GDP, and the most recent growth in number was really big. The Canadian economy grew 3.7% in Q2 of 2019 on an annualized basis. Shut up. You sound like an idiot when you say that, Mike. Anyways, the annualization needs a little emphasis. In Q1 2019, growth was just 0.4% on an annualized basis. That's a big swing for a quarter, and it's partially due to inventory rising 28%, but that's a different conversation. The point is there's a huge amount of seasonal impact, even with adjusted numbers. A read on good economy or a bad one based on single GDP growth point is next to useless for practical reasons. Great boasting point, though. Okay, the real GDP per capita is falling close to 0. So there it is. If compared to population growth, that impressive GDP isn't impressive. In fact, a notable Canadian economist called the GDP growth mirage. Real GDP is calling it a growth mirage. So it looks like we're growing. Realistically, we're just getting more poorer, and we are stripping down basically to nothing. GDP per capita was $55,480 in Q2 of 2019, up 0.2% from the year before. Note exactly the massive growth of typical booming economy. So this is not exactly the massive growth. Oh, wow. Yeah, Canadian GDP per capita. Wow. Canada's seen growth like this very often, and it's almost always during a not-so-fun time. This is the lowest in 2016, since 2016 during the oil patch recession that started a year before. Prior to that, numbers lower than this were seen in 2008, 2009 during the Great Recession. Prior to that, we need to go all the way back to 1990 to 1992 at the end of the last population housing boom. So there it is, guys, 2019. Oof. Look at 2009. Remember what happened then? Look at 91, 90, 91, 92, and look at 82. Those are the ones right there. Those are the key moments in Canadian. This one here, I remember in 96 when things got really bad. But now it's getting into really bad territory. But you see how we get these big springbacks? See here how things get bigger and better? We never had bigger and better in a long time. You know why? Very simply because we failed to raise interest rates so right here, when they lowered interest rates right here, and it just kept going, we failed to bounce back to these big numbers here that we used to have back in the day. Love it or hate it, Canada's using immigration as an economic stimulus, and that's dangerous. You have no idea how dangerous that is. On one hand, the rise in immigration improves spending on home values, which we talked about. So Canada's fighting for rich immigrants. They're fighting against Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Not too much in the U.S. U.S. is like, I don't know, like right now what's happening with the U.S. with immigration. They're kind of cutting back on immigration in the U.S. On the other hand, households are only seeing a minor improvement in the standard of living. The minor improvement is really not reflective to the healthy economy narrative being told. So if our GDP is less than 3.64%, like what they're boasting about, everybody should be making hand over fist right now. Everybody should be very little to no homeless, right? Even more concerning is the substantial amount of this minor improvement is based on debt. Okay, so it leaves the best for last. The minor improvement that we have in our lives is based off debt building. Not wealth building, Debt building. Woo! Proasis channel. You're a smart person, Mike. We or at least love you. Yes. Real Kevin Tubbs, I don't think something's gonna happen unless a real serious change is made. PPCs are only help. Yes, guys, vote for Maxime Bernier. He's the only one that made any sense when it came to getting the budget back on track. If we get the budget back on track, we'll easily see a dollar on par with the U.S. We'll be on par with the U.S. dollar, right? We'd see a powerful, Kevin Thompson saying secure the border. We don't need to secure the border. Canada, no. It's no. That's a waste of money, right? To secure the border. Too much taxpayers, too much of a big border with 5,000 kilometers long, 4,800 kilometers. Not worth it. Property developers set up residential construction as housing market emerges from a deep freeze. So right now, Ontario, which needs every last unit at this point, and BC lead the boom fueled by population inflows of resilient economies. So what's happening, guys, is a lot of people from Hong Kong have been coming over. I have a friend, Shanghai Larry, who was telling me that the Canadian consulate in Hong Kong, the lineup goes like 2 kilometers long down the fire escape in the skyrise that they're in, the unit they're in the building. It goes down like 2 kilometers of people, and they're trying to get in a couple of thousand, 3,000 to 6,000 a day in from Hong Kong into Canada. So if they come in with some sort of riches or something, a lot of them might be bringing this market back, and it ties back to this Better Dwelling article. Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar preventing a recession. So that goes back to that, right? So in addition, 300K Canadians in Hong Kong. No, it's actually 750,000 Hong Kong citizens with Canadian citizenship, right? I think it was back in 2011 and 12, they started ramping up, Canada started ramping up, not moving people from Hong Kong to Canada, but giving them citizenship, provided they had X amount of money. They had X amount of money to buy a house in Canada. Like if they were going to come buy a house and settle and kind of lay roots in Canada. That's what Canada's hoping for, right? To bring big money into the country, right? Canada takes care of these people. So everyone's asking who's coming into Canada. No. People are saying Africans. Yeah, oh, sure. Everybody's coming for Canada except the Portuguese. They don't want Portuguese here. Portuguese are no good. I'm a Portuguese. Don't worry. They keep deporting us like crazy. Okay. Let's find out what. Guys, this is an important. Before they take this down, guys, commit this thing to memory. Before this gets taken down by the news. Canada wants more Chinese workers, students, and tourists. Here it is. This is a perfect time to purge China for wealthy people, especially with their social credit scores going around, all this thing happening. Bring in the money, man. Here it is. Canada has been increasing visas from China to about 500,000 per year and fast-tracking them to fast citizenship. And they're pushing it to about 800,000 per year. Then you're going to get Francois in the comment section. Leave a link to show StatsCan immigration, and none of it matches. Like, I think there's a different one for lucrative rich people. I don't think they fall under the classes like the immigrating from a dangerous country or immigrating from poverty. I think there's a different immigration system, even though it's one. I think for lucrative rich investors, it's a bit different. So don't believe any of those numbers. Believe the articles they've been writing you here for all these years, you know? Yeah, fast-tracking them into Canadian citizenship and opening more visa offices for Canada to compete for Chinese workers, students, and lucrative tourists and business. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what's happening here. I kind of wanted to let you guys know because everyone keeps picking on Africa, Africans coming here. No, no. There's Africans coming, sure. There's some Europeans, but Canada pretty much closed immigration from the Europe. I think it was in the 93, 94. I think after the Kennedy administration in 1963, 64, America started first. They actually stopped bringing in Europeans into America. It was actually 1963, 1964. It actually, you could look up the act. They passed an act that time where they just didn't want no more Europeans coming in. Yeah, Steve Stevens has a yeah, we got Stevie Stevens saying yeah, they got all the yeah, they got all the minerals, right? So what else we got? They have a casino open 24 hours a day to rinse your money. Yeah. $200 billion rinsed through Canada. All right, let's get through more articles here. More townhomes and semi-detached being built in Toronto as home sales continue to surge. So home sales are going up, and right now, I don't know how it's even possible because right now the median price for a home in Toronto and the GTA, you have the average person making an average salary, not minimum wage, average salary needs to save up for 18 years to put a down payment. So I'm not sure how this is even possible. Their economists had expected an annual pace of 214,500 new units. So this is a lot across the GTA. I got to get Steve the plumber on the show to find out what the heck is going on. Is the housing market stabilized, but without the Canadians? Without Canadians? Because I don't know who's going to work 20 years to put a down payment on the house and then have to pay it off for another 50, 60 years with refinancing and all that. So apparently this is what's happening. I'm getting this all over the place. Oh, it's Getty Medij. Gary. Gary, you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here, man. How are you?
Good, good. How you doing, buddy? So what's
I'm good.
going
I'm
on?
good.
You're in Toronto. I know you're looking for a place. What the heck is going on? More townhomes and semi-detached being built in Toronto as home sales continue to surge.
I'll tell you right now why home sales are continuing to
Please,
surge.
please.
Mommy, and daddy are co-signing for these houses.
Really?
I think so.
But but but
100%.
a lot of bank of mom and dad are there. A lot of them are tapped out, buddy.
I don't know, man. It just it's combined income, right? You got the kids, like the married couple, and then the parents, right? Combined income. That's I think how it works, as far as I know. And there you go. That's how these people are buying these homes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I just
Yeah.
don't think that would. I don't think that would drive it up as much, though, Gary. I
No,
really don't.
I think it's fake news, man. I don't know, man. I think the election's here and they're trying to make things look good when there's not. That's what I think.
Mm, mm. I don't know, but I believe you. I believe because I know they've been using the bank of mom and dad for the last decade, right? But why do you think it would ramp up right now? Do you think people believe that it's dropped far enough now that it's good time to get back in? Do you think that's what it is?
I think that's possible. I mean, like I said, I mean, people are seeing these prices and things seem to be coming down. Like I'm looking around in Vaughan right now, Bolton, and a lot of things are selling on their asking. Maybe a one or two are selling over, and if it's selling over, it's maybe like 5, 10 grand tops now. It's not more than that.
Yeah, they're
And
not
I think
overbidding it by four or $500,000.
no, no, it's actually things are actually becoming more realistic. I still think prices are too high, but they're simmering down slowly. As far
Right.
as these numbers, they got to be fudged. I don't know. I don't buy it. I still think it's because of the election. They got to make things look good.
Well, did you
Um,
did you listen to the first article I read? Canada's Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar to prevent a recession.
Well, that's what's been happening all this time, right? It's them that's been holding it up in the first place. It's not us. I can tell you that much.
Right, because the Canadian proper did you remember, Gary? We covered this on the show about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 weeks ago. That the Canadian proper making an average wage in Ontario and in BC, in one of the major cities in those provinces, in Toronto, need to work 18 years and 21 years in Vancouver just to put a down payment.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. And there's no other way these people are buying these homes unless they're getting co-signed, whether it's with family or friends or whatever the situation. It's combined income with a whole bunch of people. It's not just like a regular couple anymore. I'm telling you, man. It's either mom and dad or friends are co-signing. That's my theory anyway.
So, have you been going
It
to see
doesn't make
homes
sense.
lately?
These people don't. It doesn't. I'm sorry. What was that?
Have you been going to see homes lately?
I kind of seen maybe one or two in the last few months rather than anything else. I'm still kind of watching on the sidelines because it's still, like I said, these prices are ridiculous, and whoever thinks that prices are good the way they are. I mean, you said it yourself, you got to save a whole bunch, a lot. You got to save for years before you can have a decent down payment to put on these places. So,
Oh, that's just the
like I
minimum down
said,
payment, dog. That's not like
that's what I mean,
40%
right?
down. Hmm?
Exactly. So there you go. So if these prices are this high, I don't know how people, like I said, they got to be getting co-signed or something. It doesn't make sense that they're doing it on their. I don't believe they're doing it on their own. That's what I think anyway. I think the same thing that happened in 2017 is starting to happen now as far as the
Hmm.
market being driven up. I think it's just, well, it's FOMO first of all, and like I said, I think it's just either mom and dad are helping out or like a co-sign. I think it's more co-signing than anything.
Hmm.
That's my
Yes,
opinion.
somebody in the comments is saying construction is cheap drywall and crap finish. It just gets like that when I get 50, 60 people. It just goes
Yeah,
offline.
yeah. I'm looking at it now, and it shows that you're offline. Okay, it looks like you're back.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, like I
What
said,
happens is
it's big. They're
every
driving
time
up.
I reach 50 or 60 people, it goes offline. The other day it went up to, on Mike in the Night, 140, then it went offline, then it came back. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, no, like I said, I think these numbers are being fudged. I don't agree with them. I think it's all like just stuff for to make everything look good. The election's coming. I personally think, if it was a few months ago, I would have said that Trudeau was going to lose. But the way things are going, I don't know, man. It looks like he might win this thing, and that's if he wins this thing, Canada's done.
yeah.
So that's the way I see it. Yeah, Canada's finished. I don't care what he says and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so-
honestly think if he wins, I mean, I think our best choice right now is Maxine Bernier will be the best
yeah, I
choice
like
for
him
us.
too. But the problem is, I heard, if we vote for him and he doesn't win, apparently I heard his votes go to the Liberals or something or whatever, the runner-up or whatever the situation. I don't know. It's interesting. I think he's the better one out of all of them too. He should have been the leader of the Conservatives, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, interesting. I went from 69 viewers to 26.
yeah.
Good
They're doing.
job, YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, right now I'm looking at it from on my TV. Your thing is frozen. You're not even. I don't know what's going on there, and so I don't know if it's even playing or not. But
Yeah, it is. It says here it's moving, but it says it's crashed. People are saying it's crashed in the comments. Yeah, but had a really steady thing going, nice and steady, and get up to 70. Oh, it's down to 18 viewers now.
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with it. But anyway, like I said, I mean, the private lenders too. That's another thing too. Besides the co-signing, I mean, private lenders aren't regulated, right? So they can just lend whatever the hell they want. So, and as far as what I was saying about the Liberals, if they win, and like I said, he wants to put capital gains on primary residents, right? You heard about that, right? I
Hmm.
even Steve the plumber even said it, right? So if he does that, the housing market's going to come to a complete halt. No one's going to sell shit because I
Yeah,
swore
no
whatever.
one's gonna no because what's gonna happen is, you see, that's the problem. Like this inheritance crap, all this equity on tax the equity, all the stuff they're looking at implementing is trying to find more ways to get money from you. That's it, Gary. That's it.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
problem is they're taxing more
The thing
than.
is, if they do that, then that's it. The housing market's on a halt. No one's going to sell nothing. It's going to come to a complete halt. And if they sell, it's because they're going to have to, not because they want to. Because with that capital gains tax, who's going to want to sell at that point, right? I mean, people who made money over the years and whatever, they're not going to want to pay any a part of it to the government. They're going to say screw this, and they're going to just stay in the house. It
Hmm.
doesn't even matter. They won't even like even older people won't even downsize anymore because of that. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. So we live in interesting times, like we really do.
No, we really do. You're 100% spot on with that. And it's very interesting to be alive right now because it's never happened like this before. Because even if you go
Yeah.
back to this Better Dwelling article and you look down at the bar graph here, you
Mhm.
see here where which article? No, it was the other one I was reading. It was this. No, which one was it? The graph I was reading where you could vividly see the ups and downs between the two different right here, yeah. So see, when you had the crash in '82, they raised interest rates, and then the economy went back up. Everything went good up until '91, and then they raised interest rates again. They raised interest rates, they corrected it, and then boom, guess what hits? 2006, everything goes stagnant, and 2007 2008 was bad. 2009 was a disaster, and then things kind of picked up. But because we didn't raise interest rates and kept them at historical lows, it's been steady, 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 Freddy, zero since then, and no growth. And the GDP and our growth domestic product is low, and our economy is shrinking, and our jobs are going down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what doesn't make sense. So everything's going down, yet our economy's freaking it's acting as if it's through the roof, which doesn't make any sense. So something obviously everything's being propped up here. The question is, I don't know what they're trying to do. Like even going to the U.S. for a minute, they've cut rates already what twice now, and they're going to maybe cut even three times the way this is going. And we haven't even cut. We're going to cut once at least before the end of the year. That's pretty much. I think that's a given. And but the thing is, I think we're in a situation where he can't raise and he can't cut. In my opinion, he's going to cut because he's going to have to follow suit.
Right. The
But
problem is
we're
if he
in a
keeps cutting rates, it's going to keep going for a long time. But if he raises rates, and we raise rates like a normal, healthy economy and leave it on autopilot, let's raise rates. Boom, you see the correction. People crash. Reset buttons pressed. Then you get the people coming into the market that have been waiting, and that's how you get the refresher. Do you understand what I'm saying? You get the refresher when people like you and other people like Steve and all the people on the sidelines waiting for this stupid thing to get fixed go in and buy once you get the refresher, once it resets. So once it resets, rates go up, housing goes down to normal levels, and you go in and buy. And that's how
well,
the economy kind of picks back up. We're not doing that. We're just leaving it low and we're keeping it going for years.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's all messed up. I don't know. Like I said, and I've already said this before with immigration and stuff. That basically getting treated better than the Canadian proper, and they're being basically treated like the king and queens, and but actually who are Canadians here are like tossed to the side, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
It
that's
says
what it
here.
is.
It says right here. It says right here. Canada's heavy immigration is last pillar preventing recession, and it's saying that the GDP we're manipulating or using GDP economic numbers to kind of use them in a per capita situation through immigration to show that we're growing, but we're not.
No, we're not. I don't think we are either. I think all these numbers are fudged. Like I said, it doesn't make sense. Nobody's, you know, they no one's spending as much as they used to, and I'm seeing it firsthand. All these open houses that people are saying everyone's lining up for, I'm not seeing it, and I'm going to open houses here and there, driving around the areas, and I'm not seeing nothing of this stuff. So like I said, I believe all this stuff is fudged. Like I said, it's the elections here, and trying to make things look good for the election, and
But
that's
but
what
but
I
on
think.
that election discussion, I don't know if you watched my video when I was live and I was talking about did a recap on the election. How come they didn't talk about real affordability issues, real homeless issues, opioid crisis, money laundering across Canada? All they were talking about were pipelines, global warming, climate change, pipelines, global warming, indigenous rights, and global warming.
Well, Mike, I asked the same thing. I don't know. I don't know. They kept that on. I think they kept it out on purpose, right? Obviously, because it's a pretty big topic here in Canada.
Well, there's
So
seven. There's seven. They could have talked about the
yeah,
money
like I said,
laundering.
they don't want to address anything, right? Because they know how serious it is, and they don't want to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, they want that stuff to happen because that's what's keeping everything up, right? So
Well,
you got to.
do the math. Faz as contas, okay? Faz as contas. You got
Well, of
one.
course.
They could have done. They could have done. Okay, the money laundering. Let's address it. One person could ask, "What are you going to do about this money laundering and how the Canadian proper is completely bought out of the markets?" The second one, they could have asked, "What about this homeless situation? What are we going to do about this? Because there's people freezing to death in Edmonton. Is there something we could do about this? Because this wasn't this severe 5-6 years ago." The third one, they could have asked, "What about true housing affordability as people gaining not more money, but average wage earners should be able to get into the housing market. Average wage should get in no problem. This shouldn't be a problem." but it is. They could have asked so many things, Gary.
No, they could have, but they kept the biggest stuff, biggest subjects, the biggest things that Canadians want to know out of the debate, which just proves that they just want to keep everything the way it is, right? The thing is, the more they prop this thing up, the harder this market's going to fall, and that's what's going to happen, right? They're propping this up so much day by day, whatever you want to call it, all these fake numbers and all that stuff, that eventually, when this thing falls, this is going to be so catastrophic. It's not even going to be fun. It's going to affect everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to affect everybody, and people can say what they want. I know, obviously, we can't figure out the time when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when at this point.
It could be a deflationary period we go through for the next stagnation / deflation in a way where our dollar doesn't move too much, kind of like Japan. But Japan was okay because the average house you can still buy an apartment in Japan for like $40,000, right? But it doesn't go up in Japan and it doesn't go down. It just stays at 40 grand for an apartment, right? So if you buy a house in, let's say, outside of Tokyo, let's say for 100,000 Canadian, right? It's not going to be worth $110,000 in 5, 10, 15 years. You know what I'm saying, Gary?
Yeah,
So
I know what you're saying.
they're in that situation right now. They're like in a zombie situation. What I'm scared about, Gary, is not that. I'm scared about what if houses stay at 700, 800, 900,000 for like 10, 15 years? Then what happens?
Then nobody's gonna buy a home, at least not the Canadian proper anyway. And the only people that will buy a home are people who come in.
But
That's
then
it.
what happens to us?
That's the question. I can't really answer that because we won't know until we face that.
Yeah.
Who knows what's gonna happen? Just people are gonna continue to win on the sidelines. Everyone's gonna live with their parents or whatever the situation, and that's pretty much what's gonna happen.
Remember, Gary, what I told you? What I told you we're going to all end up back in Portugal one day?
Oh yeah,
I don't mind. Portugal is a great country. I mean, in comparison to what's happening here now lately,
yeah,
I prefer to have nothing and die happy than to have something and be a slave.
absolutely. You were saying something before about the dollar staying stagnant. I'll tell you right now, if BOC cuts rates, the dollar's gonna tank, 100%.
Yeah.
If he cuts rates.
If they cut,
If he cuts it once, and I think once he cuts it once, I think that's when the panic's going to start. People are going to realize, you know what, the economy is not good. Because for everyone who thinks cutting rates is a good thing, it's not, because it's a sign of that things aren't good at all, right? And I think that's when people are going to start realizing, oh well, wait a minute, he's cutting rates, so obviously things aren't as great as they seem, right?
Mhm.
So you got to keep that in mind too, right? And
Yeah, but they're calling it different names now. They're calling it like Operation Henrietta and Operation Twist, Operation Repo Buyback. They're giving it different names now to kind of dissuade people into thinking what is going on here. Oh, it's not QE. The second someone hears QE, they freak out.
oh,
Now,
that's what they're trying to
yeah,
do. They're trying to disguise it to make it seem, oh, like it's not what it is. But people who know what's going on knows what's going on, right? So that's what it is. You can't, maybe some people will fall for that stuff, but at the end of the day, people who know what's going on, who've been watching this stuff for years. I've been watching the market for a long time now,
hmm
and I watch it. I look at houses daily on realtor sites and all that stuff, and I know what's selling, what's not. I know what prices are up or what prices are down. So the fact that they're saying the housing market's jumping, I mean, Toronto, at the end of the day, I think is a powerhouse. It's where everybody wants to be. I don't see too much of a correction being done there. As far as GTA outside of Toronto, yeah, like places like Allison, Barrie, Bradford, Newmarket, all those places further out are all have already seen major corrections. So, and they're continuing to see it by the month. So, at the end of the
hmm
day, we're in a big affordability crisis, right? Moby just said it best. So, people can, everyone wants to buy a house and can't buy it because of the prices being where they are. I mean, what sense does that make?
Well, I got
You know,
some good news, Gary. Do you remember when they implemented in 2017, early 2017, when Vancouver implemented the foreign buyers tax?
yeah,
Well, a bunch of people moved to Toronto after that, and they remember what happened in 2017 in Toronto. Everything went crazy, right?
that's
Well,
right.
a lot of foreign investors went down to Washington State, Seattle. I got the article in front of me. Listen to this. An initiative to reduce car tabs in Washington State to $30 per vehicle. So they're going to start tabbing vehicles $30 to actually come into the city. And it says here, In places like King County, expensive housing prices could only continue to rise as people become less willing to buy further away from where they work. So they're actually looking to actually tab cars or charge cars $30 to come in to the city.
No, that sounds like a big joke to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. What sense does that make?
Yeah, 20 and yeah, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, we're the most taxed country in the world, so there you go. So that goes to show you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, we live in interesting times. Like I said, I mean, it's just you know what? It's I don't even know what to say anymore when it comes to this market. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I've been waiting on the sidelines like a lot of other people. I watch your show for a few years
Hmm.
now. I met Steve the plumber on the live chat, and I've been talking to him ever since. And it's just it doesn't make sense, this market at all. I mean, it just, if they're catering to immigrants before Canadian proper, that doesn't make any sense. Why can't
Canada
we?
wants more Chinese workers, students, and tourists as immigration minister. Canada is actually fighting with Australia, New Zealand, and the UK to attract more Chinese wealthy investors. Visas have been increasing from China to about 500,000 per year, but opening more visa offices could help Canada compete for Chinese workers, students, and lucrative tourist business. It's the biggest money making market in the world. They spend a lot of money, and it's a great investment for Canada.
Yeah, well, like I said, that just proves my point, right?
Yeah.
So
So
it
that's
just
what's
it doesn't.
happening. And that's an article, dude, from 2016.
No, I know, and they're still they still want it, right? The thing is, right now, the China anyway, they froze their assets, right? Nobody can take money out right now,
Hmm. So we
right?
got
As far
Red
as
Pill Millennial commenting here. Anything within less than 3 hours out of Toronto is unaffordable. If you want to buy in Ontario, you need to either go to Sarnia, Windsor, Leamington, uh, Chatham, or Northern Ontario. Maybe like Sault Ste. Marie up there, or
well,
Woodstock, Ontario.
people, if people want to go that far and live, on their life on the road, then so be it. I guess I'm not doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people want to buy houses, sure. I mean, if you want to go that far and commute every day for 3, 4 hours, 5 hours a day, hey, all the power to you. But you do that every day, you're not even gonna get a chance to enjoy that house of yours. So what does that tell you, right? So
A lot of Vancouverites, a lot of people in Vancouver bought in Washington State and came and go to work in Canada every day. But then that stopped once the foreign investing started in Washington State, because a lot of people were living in Washington, just Blaine, Washington, right on the border, and they would just drive to Canada every day to go to work,
yeah,
right? But then that stopped, right? I'm not sure if
yeah. I mean,
it'll. Yeah.
I'm not saying. I mean, that life's not for me. I mean, if people can do that, then so be it. Good for them. I know. I'm not one of those people. So I'm
Mhm.
not doing that. So
Well,
I
Vancouver
don't.
from the border is
I'll
only
say.
like, it's not far, right? It's very
Well,
close.
no, I know. I realize that. It's
Yeah.
just
So
I'm just trying to say that to commute every day the way people are, like coming GTA to Toronto, depending where you are. I mean, coming to from Barrie to Toronto, or Alliston to Toronto, it's a crazy drive every day to do. I mean,
did you read
it's
my thing? My the article I read this morning about the GTA gridlock there?
I saw you posted a video on it. I think I didn't. I haven't watched it yet. No,
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
was about.
bad.
I was going. Well, your show came up, so I wanted to watch the show. So
Yeah.
I was gonna watch that later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like I said, Mike. We live in interesting times, and right now the way things are, buckle up because it's gonna be the bumpy ride the way things look.
Well, we
So
can, like I said, we can enter to severe stagnation mode, and then if we do, we're going to become like Japan, and nothing will work. But if they lower rates like you said they would in the next meeting, if the Bank of Canada decides to lower their rates, then we're going to see maybe a little
well, the
bit.
dollar's gonna. I think we might see the dollar tank if they cut rates. So I
Buddy, I
mean,
don't
I'm
want a
not saying it's gonna
60-cent
tank a
dollar,
lot.
buddy.
Oh, I don't think anybody does, but I mean, if they cut rates, it's not good for the. It's not going to show. It's not a good sign. I don't care what anybody says. Them cutting rates is not going to be good, and they're going to have to follow suit with the states. We all know it. So
Okay, buddy. Well,
yeah,
it was
like I
great to
said,
have you on, and yeah, just keep us on the pulse with the situation there on the ground.
yeah, for sure. I think Moby wants to call in, or you call Moby. Sounds like he has an opinion on something, so give him a
Yeah,
call.
I'll give him a call in a few seconds here. I just got to fire off two articles here, okay?
All right, bud. Take care.
Have a good
Good talk.
night. All
You too.
right. Good night.
Bye.
That's Gary Medeiros, my Portuguese compatriot there from Toronto, Ontario. And I have a lot of respect. He came to my dad's wake when my dad passed away. Him and Steve the plumber came to pay their respects. Growing numbers of Seattle's homeless found housing this year, city reports. So King County is 461 households and 704 people were housed. So King County is putting something together, and a lot of help from Google and other big alphabet companies. Portland digs into city housing crisis. So Portland again, they're actually building and erecting more buildings. Portland is actually managing to get more housing underway because Portland, Oregon started getting a huge buyout from a lot of Californians that left California and moved north to Portland, Oregon, and actually rallied the prices there. All right, so let's close this here. Portland joins regional effort to increase affordable housing 10% by 2025. So Oregon is, again, they're working hard to actually get people off the streets. California becomes the state to cap rent increases. California doing the right thing today, or doing the right thing by passing this, capping the increase. Law limits increases of 5% each year, plus inflation until January 1st, 2030. So this is going to help tenants from skyrocketing rents. So California is putting measures into place for that. This will stop speculators from buying and renting out homes. This way people could buy homes and live in them, and that's a good thing. We need people living in their homes, you know what I'm saying? Not just buying them to rent out. California governor signs rent law amid rising housing costs and homelessness again. So they want to freeze the rent. Okay, we got Rex Cohen here. What's up, Rex?
Hi.
Yes. Are you there? Network poor connection. Okay, anyways. So his internet's down, and let's see if I could get Moby. Moby, message me, man. I can't find you here, man. Oh, there he is. Never mind, I found him. All right. Oh, he's not picking up either. All right. Oh, they sent me a video on... All right, so we got... All right, Rex Cohen, what's up, buddy?
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Welcome to Trends in the Housing Market. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, yeah, so sorry about my connection. I'm just going through some area here where the connection's not that great, so...
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
are
want
you
to
in a
call in.
bunker?
Well, almost, you could say it, almost. I'm in a safe place, let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up a few things about the housing market. If you're looking at, BC housing to cool down in particular, I'm not sure if it's going to happen now since Hong Kong is totally unstable. France and parts of Europe are unstable. We all know the Middle East is unstable. They all want to come here. The world wants to come here. So long as the world wants to come here, this could be a nice place to live, right? So prices are the pressure is going to continue to be going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I know that now. I'm not sure how the interest rates are going to impact it. I know they're going to have some helicopter money, some negative interest rates. Even if there's 0% interest rates, or America's looking at some negative interest rates, it's still going to slightly push the prices high. Like, I think the common person is really much screwed.
Oh yeah, the common Canadian, like the average Joe Donuts, if they don't know what's going on around them and they're not prepared, I think they're going to be
They're
in a world of
they're
hurt.
screwed. And then on top of that is, look at our salaries. Our salaries are going up maybe 0.5% to 1% per year. That's it, right?
Well,
But
it
housing,
doesn't even hedge against the inflation.
no. And you know the inflation formula, it's manipulated. They exclude things that would have a direct impact on the final answer of the inflation. So, and then they include things that really don't have an impact. Like I think they take out gasoline and they take out oil and they take out, housing prices. When they say when they give us, the inflation of the year,
Hmm.
everything is a fake. This world is a fake. Everything is manipulated. We do live in a matrix. We all being controlled. We are all sheeple. We all gotta pay a mortgage. It's the rich that control us,
Hmm.
man.
Hmm.
The filthy rich. Like I think Aerosmith sings that song, "Eat the Rich."
Eat the
Like,
rich.
yeah, like you should play that today on your show.
No,
But
I'm going to get flagged and shut down.
oh, oh, oh. So I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like what's it? Like, what about the solution of, if you can't beat them, cheat them? Like, should you cheat? Should you go head to head with the policies of the government?
Hmm.
Like, is that a solution? Is a solution to band together with your friends and work together, try to get
Yes,
a
that's a solution. It's called private sector, not public. We don't need more government governing us. We need more of us working together and spending at each other's businesses and supporting each other.
yeah. And what my main concern is like, which city do you live in again, Mike? I know it's a rural town. I'm not familiar with it. What are the demographics? Like, how large is it, and where is that again?
I live in Merritt, British Columbia. It's 7,800 people, maybe 8,000.
Well, I got to come up and visit that town. And do you see an impact on the pricing there?
Yes, because a lot of people from the coast are moving up here.
And what's the prices have gone up, or is it stable?
Yes.
What?
For when I bought my house I think went up 40% in value or 30-40% in value easy in the last 3 years.
Holy shit. So are we seeing them still go up? I know assessments are due in December. Are you seeing the pricing still continuing to rise, or has it stabilized?
I don't know. I don't know. I know there's a couple of properties around me selling for 3 times the amount they were 3 years ago. So I want to see if I'm actually watching them like a hawk to see if they
Like,
move.
what's the price on those?
Well, there's one like half the size of my house, and behind my house, like way behind, like my neighbor way at the back there. He's selling for I think it's like 700,000.
Fuck, I bought my house in East Vancouver in 2010, like just like 625 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? This is not East Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How the hell is a house in your town, Merritt, which I still want to come and visit? I heard it's a beautiful town.
Mm-hmm.
$700,000.
Well,
Tell me,
he's pushing for 700 large, and then the guy on the corner is asking 630 for his. The corner lot down the street here with the for sale sign.
oh fuck, that's
Stop
crazy.
swearing.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So okay, what are we seeing? Why are these homes Vancouver prices from 10 years ago?
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
And that was still expensive. I remember when I bought home, people were like, "Wow, that's expensive, dude." When I
Hmm.
bought the house in Vancouver, you know what? Now those homes are all over a mill, and no one can still buy them.
Hmm. And those houses are garbage too.
Yeah, I know it wasn't a great home. It was an older home, but that's what you can get for that day in 650. Now homes over there now that's like 1.3 or something, 1.4.
1.3.
Yeah, and it's in East Van. Now you're looking at new homes in Vancouver are like starting out like 1.18, 1.9, 2, especially on the other side of Main Street, like Main and 49th at 2 mil. Main and 54th, Fraser and 54, Fraser and that's a nice area, Victoria Hills or something. Then you got like Fraser and 49th. You got that whole area is just very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then then you got pushing towards Burnaby, like the Caribou area, Lougheed. Are you kidding me? Fucking sorry, houses are 1 point something. Like a condo now is a 1 bedroom condo is like half a mil. Like what kind of government do we have to elect to bring in affordability?
Well, none
Like,
of the ones that are running there, because the ones that were running on the debate that I covered, not a single one of them brought up anything about true housing affordability.
look, because they're all rich. They all have their $1 million homes. I think we got the helicopter politician from Ontario that got his seat in Burnaby, right? That he has a house in Ontario. We got Trudeau with probably multiple houses in Ontario. Where's Scheer? Scheer from Ontario too.
Mm-hmm. I think he
Scheer's
is.
from
Yeah,
He
sure.
probably have a few houses in Ontario, and the Green Party lady, she probably has a house made out of grass on the
Pete Moss.
just make sure the wolf doesn't blow it down.
Yeah, Pete Moss. No, but to be really frank with you, they didn't bring up homeless issue, which is a huge epidemic right now. They didn't bring up the money laundering across Canada, $200 billion in laundered money. They
Yeah.
didn't bring up true
They're
housing
not going to.
affordability issues.
All these politicians are corrupt. They're not going to bring out the money laundering. They don't care about the cost of living, the home prices. You know what's happened? Canadians, they're all too soft. Like, basically, once the home price a few years ago, everyone was complaining about the prices of homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're all asleep. We're all soft. Now the home prices are already past 1 million in every city. And a small town like yours in Merritt, their housing is going for 700 or 650,000, and
Well, these are
no
big
one's
lots,
protesting.
right? I know, I
No
know, I
one's
know. Realistically, my house should be worth about 300,000. Realistically, that's what
Mhm.
that's what it should be worth. It's a
But
big home. It's a big home. It's a 65 wide lot in the front, right? So that the house is big. It's got a huge lot, and the house itself is a big structure, but it should be realistically in Merritt, in the middle of nowhere, through 2.5 hours from Vancouver. Should be worth about 300 max. And the assessment comes
I'm
back at
saying that
four
where's all the
fifty. Huh?
protesters? No one's gonna protest about the housing prices in BC anymore. Like we're all sleeping now. We're like docile, or we're hypnotized, or we've taken too many, psychotropic drugs, or we're not running, or we're eating too much McDonald's. Something's wrong. Like, back 50 years ago, I think that generation, that previous generation, they would have protested, organized, marched down to Victoria or marched down to Vancouver with big signs. Now everyone's just like, forget it.
Yeah.
Give
You know what it
give me
is?
my iPhone and let me watch some videos. Like that, they're just flat.
So
The
you're
pop,
saying
like
they're
the
not
pop.
they're not basically raising their voices.
No, I think just like the pop. When you're drinking Coca Cola and it has no more, it fizzes out. The pop is flat.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can just say as Canadians, the pop is flat.
Yeah, it's flat pop or stale chips.
Yeah, steel chips.
Stale
So you got
chips.
steel chips in Winnipeg, flat pop in downtown Toronto, flat pop in downtown Vancouver, steel chips in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, they must make a lot of chips, man. They must grow a lot of potatoes, right? Flat chips out there, flat chips in Alberta. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel bad, you know, and I don't know what the answer is. The answer is just there's not enough of us. There's not enough Canadians, anyways, in the country that can make a stand. The politicians, all these politicians, they never talked about affordability. They it's all it's I just don't get it.
Hey, can I ask
Should
you?
we?
Let me ask a question. Did you know that secret mission you were on in Moscow? Is that done?
Well, I went down to St. Petersburg actually.
Okay. And is that over? Did you finish that job there?
A little bit, yeah. I kind of It was mostly talking about yeah, it's over now. Yeah, I'm back. I'm back in Canada for a bit now, and then I'll be traveling to Chicago later next month or for a bit. But just right now, just happy to be in the Western Hemisphere. It's safe. But I got a question for you too, though.
Me?
What's gonna happen in with the Brexit? With how is that impacting the homes out in England?
You
And
know what? They need to find a way to cover up their buying. Canada. It's really tough for them to find a reason why they sold out our country, but and why housing is so expensive in the UK with the Brexit situation. They just blame Brexit. They don't have to worry about, oh, we sold our 70% of Londoners can't afford to live. And I have an article open right in front of my face that you mentioned that. More
what?
than 8 million people in England living in unsustainable housing. You should see the picture of the house I'm looking at. The interior, you would have a heart attack. This is what's happening. 8 million people living below the poverty level in London.
When you're talking about below the poverty level, like, can you give me a world comparison? Like there's slums in the world where they live in like
Okay, this
just
is really bad.
called
I'm looking at this picture, and I'll describe it for people that are listening to this without the video. There's just a bunch of wood thrown on the wall, like just different colors of wood. One's particle board, one's drywall, and the other one looks like it's some sort of thing to make up a wall, like a piece of cover wood. And then the back wall looks like it's drywall, but it's completely covered in dirt and grime. And the flooring and the flooring is falling apart. The counter is completely falling apart, and the sink looks like it's caved into the thing. The windows look like they haven't been changed in 100 years, and they're using old radiator heating for water, hot water heat, and the house just looks so decrepit that you wouldn't even go in there with a mask.
oh. So what's happened? Their prices went up too high. What's
Well,
going?
no, London started London, England, England as a whole started competing for rich investors from China in the early 2000s.
And Russia.
Some
I heard lot.
Russia, even some some Iraq, some people from Kuwait,
Yeah,
some rich people from Dubai, but they started competing for rich investors, right? And a majority of
yeah,
them did come from China. Like about 33% of the investors came from China. There's about
yeah.
12% from Russia. Iran had some. There was different countries, right? But
Okay.
but they competed so hard for rich investors that half their 1 in 3 properties are empty, and you have 8 million people in England living in unsustainable housing
Today?
today, right now. This is the article from today. This is
So
from
you're
this is
so
from the Guardian.
so those foreign investors, they just bought property in China
Lots of
in
it's
England to
it's all
park
left.
it.
It's all empty. But they started before Vancouver, though. They started before Vancouver. They started before Australia. They started like big money. I'm saying. Then when China starts going on the skids, then you start seeing a lot of money moving out of China.
But is China is it going on the skids? Like
Yes, it
if China
is.
was going on the skids, you would know about it because
No, they
Vancouver
are
you
going
live
on
in
the
the
skids, and we know about it because everyone's coming here.
but is China's like Vancouver's not prices aren't going down in Vancouver yet. So is China
No,
going on the skids?
no. You're not understanding. Things are
Oh,
going down in China. Okay,
okay.
they have this social credit score that's destroying people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, people don't want to live underneath that kind of scrutiny. What
No.
do? They leave. They sell what they got and they come here,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
that pushes the prices up here.
Yes, because they come and buy a house here for whatever they're asking for. They don't even bargain.
But do they have the money for that?
Of course they do. The
Trans
Chinese have tons of cash. Dude, the
and where do they
Chinese
get that
launder
cash?
$200
Where do they
billion
get the
dollars in
cash?
Canadian real estate.
And where do they get that cash?
That I don't know, man.
See,
I don't know,
that's the
dude.
answer. You got to figure that out. Who gave them the cash?
Well, unless you want to fly into China and go on undercover and find out.
Like they didn't have the cash during the Mao Zedong revolution.
Of course not.
That was in the 60s, right?
Right?
And they didn't sure have the cash during the Richard Nixon when he was flying to China to
Listen, they
have
had
that.
the cash after the Reagan administration, after Bill and Hillary Clinton started selling off all our jobs to China.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Clintons and continuing with Obama, and I think our prime ministers went to China and they started to make some business deals with
Of
them, and
course they did. Of
the,
course.
then the corporations moved there. So who gave them the money then? So the answer's right there.
Right.
What they did was companies moved. Companies will move to another area of the world where there's less regulation,
Right.
so they can profit more.
And now
Uh,
China's getting too expensive, so everyone's going to Malaysia and Thailand, and where else are they
yeah,
moving their
I
companies to?
heard, I heard, I
Laos.
heard I heard even someone was telling me, my friend, he is in Beijing, and he goes apartments of 900,000 million
900,000 pesos?
Canadian dollars, easy, a one
Holy
bedroom
smokes.
in Beijing,
Holy crap.
easy. It's like more expensive than Vancouver.
It is. It is.
So
Okay,
now,
dog.
yeah.
I'm going to let you go. I
But
got
one
to.
last comment. What's your prediction? Housing for the next year?
I
Is it
think it's
because
going to
you
go
used to say it's going to
stagnant. It's going to
crash?
go stagnant. I think we're going to go into a zombie-like state like Japan for a little while until more and more Canadians are just going to leave. Canadians are going to leave. A lot of them, anyone that's in a profession, you know what kids are going to start doing when they go to college? They're going to
What?
start taking courses to find jobs in America when they graduate.
Well, one of my cousins, and I think I told you about him in Pittsburgh, and he actually wants to do a show. By the way, I want to talk to you about that. He's actually came from BC, and he lives out there now in Pittsburgh, and he says Canada's just done. He's a Canadian real. He's like, it's just finished, man. Like, who would live in 40% tax, housing through the roof? First of all, I'll tell you something. First of all, when you make a dollar, you get taxed on that dollar, right? Then you got to pay, then you buy something, then you get taxed two times. And then at the end of the year, you got to pay taxes on the tax. Like it's tax, 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 tax. You know what I'm saying? So that dollar really is worth 50 cents.
Well, after it
So
gets if after it gets after in realistically, yes. If you want to get technical about it, yes.
yeah, it's a dollar is worth 50 cents. So basically, first dollar you get on your paycheck, you get tax, whatever you call the tax on your paychecks, right? And then from that tax, you go buy something, you get two tax, GST, HST, whatever, right? And then you get taxed again at the end of the year because you got to report your income tax. So you're getting taxed. Your whole dollar is up to 50 cents. So fuck, how are people going? And then what? What milk is now $8 for 4 liters or
Dude,
something?
I went to buy ketchup. It was $7.
$7 for ketchup?
Yeah.
You know what? You just go to McDonald's, just ask them for a whole bunch of ketchup packets. Do you know what I mean? Go to McDonald's. They make so much. How many Big Macs did you buy? Like you made McDonald's $1 million already, right? So McDonald's won't mind if you take some ketchup from them and some napkins. Like there should be a book on how to, some of these shortcuts in life. But I'm just like everybody else. I'm just trying to make it too now. Society's just went right through the roof, man. It's upside down. The only thing you can do is just try to be happy with if you have a family or a partner, just try to be happy with them, because it's like wherever when you open your eyes, it's the world's slightly on fire now, and you who knows what's gonna happen in the Middle East, Turkey's in Syria,
Yeah,
you know.
Turkish markets look like they're taking a tumble too. They look like they're on life support too. So
And then Hong Kong's on fire. Paris is on fire by those other masked men. America might go on civil war. They're trying to impeach the president, right? And you know what? I don't even know. I'm not sure if he committed a crime, but I know Joe Biden committed a crime. Like he's the one that said, to the president or something, that if you don't fire that so and so lawyer, I'm not going to give you your money.
yeah, that's how it
And
works, dude. That's how it works.
yeah, and and then and it's like there could be a civil war there or civil unrest. And
Okay,
you have
guys. All right, we'll
Trudeau,
have
Trudeau,
you on Mike in the Night to talk about that because I need to
Trudeau,
stick to housing
Trudeau,
tonight.
Trudeau,
Okay.
blackface, 3 blackfaces, and now if you don't know the news, I suggest everyone go to zerohedge.com
Yeah,
and
Zero Hedge is good. I read it every Saturday on Mike in the Night. Hello? He hung up. I guess he just took off there. All right, let's get Moby on the phone here. It's probably 11 o'clock. He might be asleep. Yeah, his Skype isn't connecting. Everyone's having poor internet connection tonight. I'm not sure what's happening. We got rolling blackouts across California. California's not too far from me here. I mean, I could drive there. I've driven there many times. Yeah, no signal. He's not answering. Not sure if they are having rolling blackouts there. There it goes, ringing.
Mikey, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, my brother?
Very good, very good. I know it's been a long time since we spoke.
So, are we looking at Canadian cities turning into England? I got this article right here. More than 8 million people. 8 million, dude. Not 8,000, not 80. Heck, not even 800,000. 8 million people in England living in unsustainable housing. And I've gotten emails from people that they say they live in a dumpster. It's so bad. That's how bad it is.
Well, hopefully it doesn't get that bad here, but I mean, I know the population in Toronto proper is only like 2.5 million, but still, I mean, even a portion of our population could be in somewhat of a similar living situation, yeah, if things keep up.
Because this is a big deal. Because remember, we look at patterns on this show when the trends are heading. England
Absolutely.
is several years ahead of Canada in bidding for rich investors.
This is true. You're correct.
We're in a problem now. We might be following this broken down state, like this broken down madness in the middle class. Average wage earners might be living like this soon.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind that we started, I guess, going into competition for richer investors in what late 2000s. I would say after the financial crisis / recession, right? 2007, 2008, we started competing with the rest of the world for the Chinese investors and whatnot. So, I mean, if anything, that sort of policy proposal was really an attempt to bail out, the our economy as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of maybe the energy sector, but still. I mean, and I find this rather interesting, and this is actually one of the points that I wanted to bring up because I know you guys were talking about, the debate, but I'll get to that in a minute. I wanted to bring up this bit of an analogy that I sort of came to a realization that ever since I would say about maybe call it 2015, 2016, that we've sort of been living in a bailout economy, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So remember earlier, way back on in the beginning of the year, or excuse me, I think it was like last year when we spoke, I talked about how there was going to be a conservative wave, like a right-wing wave across the country.
Right.
And it's been happening, like literally almost in every single, with the exception of BC, every single province across the country has gone from either Liberal or NDP to conservative, which is great. I mean, hey, I like conservatives, but anyway, but what that has meant for us, I guess economically, is that all governments are approaching their economies the same way, which is sort of like a pro-growth strategy. I mean, it's a noble cause. I mean, we all want the economy to grow, right? So technically, if the economy grows, we get more money in our pocket, all that great stuff. With the only problem with that is the way, or the argument that can be made is how that growth is happening, right? Now, the way that I've seen it here, at least here provincially in Ontario anyway, is the government is pursuing a pro-growth agenda with respect to the housing market, right? So they're looking at what? Unlocking a little bit of land. They're looking at decreasing regulations with respect to how quickly housing is built or how quickly.
Why don't they just do the best thing option that for everybody and anybody and for our futures? Why don't they do one thing and just raise the damn rates to normal levels? Why don't they just do that? They don't have to do all this Mickey Mousing, because then we're going to have an oversupply of houses. We're going to have more houses in existence than people to live in them if they keep going this route.
Well, I'm not going to say no to, I guess this is my personal opinion, but I wouldn't say no to more houses than people living in, because technically that would mean prices would go down, right? But in that instance, I mean, if you look at the way our governments are structured, it's provincial governments that are responsible for housing and municipal affairs. In fact, in all provinces, housing is strictly a provincial's jurisdiction, right? Where they then give the the zoning and stuff belongs to municipalities, but then municipalities are creatures of provinces, right?
Right.
But so, and going back to what I was saying about right now, each province, as a result of the political sentiment, has a pro-growth agenda. Then all provinces are going through a phase where they're saying, okay, we're going to look at regulations. We're going to look at how we can speed things up. Now, what does that mean on, say, the federal level? Because obviously there's a federal election coming up, and let's put it this way: Trudeau's government it's done. The question is, how done is it? Is it going to be minority? Is it going to be majority? Well, the issue that they had was that they were trying to increase or stimulate economic growth through immigration, right?
Yep, that's the first article I covered today, and it said basically Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar preventing a recession.
It is, and I'm going to argue that the reasoning behind that was they need money. They need. I don't like to say this, but when I mentioned that we were living in a bailout economy, it's literally at all levels of government now, because there's no other way that governments can keep the economy going with such a low interest rate, such a high level of immigration, such a low level of I don't want to say regulations, but the regulations are going down now, and this continuous growth still going without the best way I could explain it is people being kicked out of the housing market. Myself, I had an opportunity back in 2010 and I didn't. I was pretty much like you. I was thinking that housing was so expensive, right? And then now I look at it again and I'm just like, shoot, yeah, housing is even way more expensive. Right.
But we didn't see that correction where we're supposed to get, right? So instead, we keep historically low interest rates forever. The longest. We've never done this before. We've created this Frankenstein monster. Now, how do we fix it? I'll tell you how we fix it. Every college students in Canada are going to start taking courses to find out what they can get an easy visa to get over to the U.S. and get out of Canada.
You know what? I won't disagree with you on that. However, and this is a big however, what happens? So that's the equivalent to a brain drain, right? Now, with respect to this whole pro-growth agenda, I know that in some provinces, anyway, mainly the Western provinces, and to a particular extent Ontario, there's also a labor agenda, which says, or which in a nutshell, is trying to drive a lot of students towards trades. It's a bit difficult, but it's because you can't. It's difficult to undo all those years of conditioning where people get out of high school and go to university, right? And then they're stuck with mountains of student loan debt, right? Which then sets them back from being able to purchase a house, right?
Well, it
After they
sets them
graduate.
back because the government got into and federalized student loans. If they left student
Yeah,
loans alone and let people
yeah,
pay their $200 a semester for their tuition, because
right.
tuition from 1960 in Canada to like 1982 was anywhere from $80 to $250 a semester, and it only went up $2 to $3 a semester. Or $1 a semester. Sometimes it barely moved up the cost of a semester. Now, student governments come and start federalizing all this crap, and then look,
Yep.
oh, it's $5,000 a semester now.
Exactly. And then, kids can I remember way back in the day when you used to be able to work a summer and then boom, you
Right.
paid
If you
for
didn't
your
work a
college,
summer,
university, or
if you
whatever.
didn't
Yeah,
work a summer,
yeah,
and you got a loan, is because if you got a loan for college, it's because you
yeah,
didn't work the summer.
exactly.
That was the
Exactly.
rule back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, 80s and 90s. And really, I know around even before the 2000s, and that's when obviously the student loans just took a big, huge jump. And even even my girlfriend now, like she took a student loan and she just recently paid it off. But yeah, and it's like now she's finally saving towards a down payment. I'm a little bit ahead of her, but yeah. Anyway, um, I was going to say, I wanted to switch gears to talk about the debate there that you had mentioned earlier.
Well, why didn't they talk about true affordability, homelessness pandemic across Canada, the money laundering across Canada, the opioid crisis across Canada? Why aren't they addressing actual true issues that affect the day-to-day Canadian?
Well, first of all, because the questions are screened. If you want me to get to the brunt truth of it, I mean, obviously, like they're talking about big ticket items, right? When I say big ticket in their eyes, or what they want the public to know, obviously, the environment, pipelines, maybe a little bit of healthcare. They might sprinkle a little bit of climate change or whatever, but they're basically setting the Canadian population up for the big fight in, I believe, 2020 or 2021. And I'll explain, I guess, to everybody who's watching what I mean by that. So, first of all, Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister, he's finished. The next Prime Minister is going to be Andrew Scheer. The big fight that's going to be, our country is going to be in literally like a tug of war. It's going to be an East versus West battle. You're going to see the federal government try and push through the Energy East pipeline one way or another, and I think it's going to come down to which I don't want to say. I don't know if I should. You know what? Screw it. I'll say it anyway. It's going to come down to which side wants it more. Is it going to be Quebec, who wants to stop the pipeline, and the environmentalists that will join them, or is it going to be the West it's going to be Quebec that doesn't want the pipeline and the environmentalists that will join them, or is it going to be the West that wants the pipeline that will take oil all the way from Alberta to New Brunswick and basically spur the economic growth that this country needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ontario is going to be in the middle. Now, what does that mean for us? Say, with respect to our economy and how we respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, politically speaking, Brexit is what's being blamed for the economic stagnation in the UK.
Well, that's the good thing. They got Brexit. America has Trump. What does Canada have?
This is what Canada's going to have. So if anybody who's watching is looking for a prediction, this is what that prediction is going to be. So around either 2020 or 2021, the East, I don't know what they're going to call it, but it is going to be the Energy East pipeline battle or something. It's basically going to pit Alberta against Quebec to see who and I believe, I don't want to say our economy is going to be at stake, but a big chunk of it is, because Alberta's the biggest financial contributor to the outside of Ontario. Alberta's the biggest financial contributor to Ottawa's coffers, right? And Quebec is the largest net recipient of federal money with respect to the equalization payments, right? So like that's where the battle is going to be politically. How that translates to housing, I can't say for sure. But what I can say is that a battle of that magnitude that literally pits one part of the country against another, maybe to the point where one party, if they don't get their way, may separate, then that leads to investors who will flee. Right? If that's the case, then then you'll see the bottom of the housing market fall out. Right?
Okay.
In my view, that's the only way the housing market crashes quickly in Canada. And I mean like Canada across the board. Because what would Canada look like as a country if it was broken in 2 or 3 or 4? I don't know. Right? So you have the Western Bloc, you'll have the Eastern Bloc, and then whatever remains fractured out of it. Right? Or if Alberta decides to separate and say, screw this, right? They leave. And then what happens to Canada's coffers as a whole? Because a big chunk of Ottawa's money is now gone because Alberta is gone, right? I mean, like what does the country look like in that scenario, right? And then where does the housing market go, or how does the housing market respond, or how do investors respond to that? Yeah. So it's going to be, let's just say the next 4 years are going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, it's going to be the tug of war between the pipeline issue, and they brought that up a lot on the debates, and they think freeing up or getting more petrol out to sea or to other parts of the country or out to ports is going to make Canadians more richer. It's not. It's just going to gain more money for the provinces so they can continue these taxing people more than what they're taxing people less than what they're spending, and that's become a big problem in Canada, is they're spending more than what they're taxing us, and I don't know who the heck is going to pay this crap off.
Well, they think they can bring in immigrants who will pay the taxes, right? Because immigrants don't know. Immigrants haven't lived here long enough to understand what our level of taxation is, right? I don't know let's put it this way, Mike. Whoever is advising people to come here, either A, doesn't know of how unaffordable, certain parts of the country are, or B, maybe they do. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure, right? But how that relates to, say, the average buyer or the average person trying to get into the market. I mean, the only other I don't think Andrew, there are a lot of people who will believe that conservatives will cut immigration. I believe that they will sustain it but not cut it. That may or may not anger some people, but that being said, obviously this I don't want to call you this scenario that we're facing here with a lot of people sitting on the sidelines. It's not just here. It's like all over the Western world where people think housing is too expensive.
Well, no, we've been covering this on the show for years. Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, all of them were on a race to bring in more and more rich investors. Today's Better Dwelling article hits the nail right on the head. Canada's heavy immigration is the last pillar to preventing a recession.
Right. So let's brainstorm, you and I, a bit, Mike. What are the 3 possible scenarios, or the 3 possible scenarios of people who refuse to enter this housing market, right? Where do they go? What do they do? They have money,
One,
right?
if they have money saved, they just relocate to the U.S. I know of people every day. Like every day, I get one or two emails of people telling me they're going to Wisconsin, they're going to South Dakota, they're going to South Carolina, they're going to Florida. And they're all professionals, though. So we're losing our public sector professionals that actually maintain our healthcare system. So the ones that actually have a job and could relocate with a good job and some money under their belt, they're gone. We're going to lose all of that. That's one scenario.
Right. Now here's another scenario, Mike, and this sort of translates to what's been happening in the Southern Ontario. I personally, now I'm calling it the Southern Ontario housing market because it spreads so far beyond Toronto and the GTA, right? The way I see like the Southern Ontario housing market is it's kind of like a water balloon, right? Where if you fill up the balloon partially with water and then you squeeze it, right? So when you squeeze the water balloon, you'll see you'll see it spreads out. And that's basically what's been happening with respect to the housing prices because people are priced out. They can't buy in Toronto. So what do? They go west of Mississauga, north of Brampton, east of Pickering, right? And then they get squeezed out of there and it keeps going. Oakville, Burlington, the Golden Horseshoe, and then it keeps going. It goes to Cambridge and London, and then it keeps going like further north to like Orangeville and on all these different places, right? And you keep going further west to Windsor, right? So at some point, where does it stop?
Well,
does it
people
stop?
are moving 110 kilometer commutes to get into work, so it's getting out of control. That the secondary and tri-cities are just out of reach. So Canadian proper can't get into the market. So they're trying to do this first-time home buyers crap. It's not working. So that second scenario, yes, they've tried that where I did it, but I did it at the right time. I did it 3 years ago when I came to the town I'm in.
Now, obviously there's some people who have done that, who've gone to like way further out. I don't know.
No, but it's been happening. Here, I'll look it up here for you. The article here. Here it is. Aboriginals and whites leaving Vancouver in mass numbers.
Yeah.
So this is from 2016. 9,345 whites and 460 Indigenous in 2016. They say it's about 18,000 in 2017. And in 2018, it was about 30 to 40,000 people whites that left Metro Vancouver.
Yeah.
So,
and they're going. Who knows where they're going, right? I mean, obviously,
no.
They're going
It says
to,
here they're going to the interior. They went to places like Victoria. They went to places like Kamloops, Kelowna, like the outside of Merritt. Like not to Merritt. They went to cities outside, the bigger cities outside of Merritt.
Outside. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So they've gone like way further east, and okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the work I do is kind of maybe sort of like a forecast of what things of what are things to come. I mean, I don't know if I've explained this to you earlier, but so I for the new listeners here, I mean, I build water towers, right? So basically, I travel, in and across Canada, building and repairing water storage infrastructure, and I've noticed that over the past 5 years or so, I've been doing a lot of work in either Northern Ontario or in the interior of BC or in the prairies, right? So, I mean, and typically I do a lot of work for municipalities, right? The reason why the municipalities are requesting these new water towers is because they're getting growth, like maybe 3, 4, 5 times their typical population, right? Now, keeping in mind some of the populations that I deal with are in maybe like just the dozens of thousands, right? So maybe like, I don't know, 50,000, 60,000, whatever, right? And sometimes I'll speak with, like a city planner or something, and I'll ask them point blank. It's like, how much growth do you think you might anticipate? And then, I don't know, they say maybe like 2-fold, 3-fold. And these are maybe, again, in towns of like 50 to 100,000. I'm like, what? Like, really? that's a lot of people to intake, right? But I mean,
Dude,
based on
the article here. Canada wants more Chinese. 500,000 per year. The article
they got to
right
go
here. Opening more
Yeah.
visa offices could help Canada compete for more Chinese workers and lucrative tourists and business. It's the biggest market in the world. 500,000. They're not including this 500,000 in the ones that are coming from Africa and all those other countries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got to put these people somewhere, right? So,
The immigration's a different. It's broken down in different partitions and different. It's under the same umbrella as immigration, but they have the wealthy ones. Then they have this, and they have different ways to get in, right? So they're under different clause or different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Let me
that's
ask
the
you this,
thing.
Mike.
So when you look at StatsCan and it says only 80,000 people came to Canada last year, that's bull.
I'll agree. Well, my question was going to be along that line. So if they say only 80,000 came, but if you include, if you include, say, the international students, if you include the work visas, if you include, all these other, all these other measures, I mean, how many people are we really bringing in, right? Is it 500,000? Is it 750,000? Is it 1 million? You know what I mean, right? Now, and then take that into account when you're looking at future trends, right? So, I mean, that's just my opinion anyway. But
Well,
yeah,
no, I understand what you're saying. The expansion growth in other cities, it's gonna, but I just think there's gonna be too many houses for the people. I think there's gonna be an oversupply on houses, and you're gonna see a lot of ghost cities. A lot of these cities that expanded fast could take in the people, especially the ones that 1-2 hours away from the major cities. They're just gonna turn into ghost towns.
Well,
not all of them. Not all of them. Just some of the suburbs outside of those other cities will start to see a decline in empty homes, and you'll start seeing it. They're building way too many homes, and if none of the Canadians own, like New Zealand in the Commonwealth is one of the worst countries in the world for ownership. I think they have less than 30% ownership. New Zealand proper owns their own homes.
Right. Wow. So they essentially become a nation of renters.
That's right. That's exactly what's happened, my brother. And that's why I'm asking you, are we headed towards the more than 8 million people in England living in unsustainable housing? Is this going to happen to us? Because these are average wage earners that are living like these kind of lifestyles, right?
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. 8 million people is no joke. You know what I'm saying? So,
no, it's not.
So,
I mean, if you're looking at the country as a whole, as a population, what are we at? 37 million, right? And we're bringing in, let's be realistic on the actual numbers that we're bringing in, right? So if you're talking about, factoring in what StatsCan says they're bringing in, plus the international students, plus the investors, plus the temporary foreign workers, which, by the way, is a pathway to citizenship.
Okay, and also they're bringing in the that open border concept that Trudeau signed on to?
The UN Compact, global migration.
Yeah, that's basically illegal because that means that we don't have a border anymore.
In a nutshell, yeah, that's exactly what it means, right? You could be looking at what, upwards of, I would say, almost 1 million, right?
Okay.
Again, where do you I'm not saying it's good or bad, but obviously it's bad for affordability. But what I'm saying is, if I'm looking at that, from a logistical standpoint, it is once you bring somebody here with just think of this for a second. Let's 1 million. You obviously can't remove 1 million people, right? If they're going to leave due to economic circumstance. It's the question is how bad does it have to be before people really leave? Really.
We're losing. They're saying 2018, Canada lost close to 250,000 people to America.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, there's
Now,
about 18 million people living in
sorry,
America, Canadians living in America since I think 1991.
right. Maybe that's where maybe that's one of the reasons why they were trying to make this whole. Yeah, I don't know if you had heard this. This is kind of like a mini scandal, if you will. But so Andrew Scheer actually holds dual citizenship, right?
Yes.
Not that I care. I mean, like, he holds dual citizenship. Great. I mean, he actually knows something. He actually knows something about the country he's next to, rather than just being an anti-American hack, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So, but anyway, sorry. Getting back to the point though, if we're losing that kind of those kinds of numbers to the States, I mean, but yet we're still say importing a million, right? That's a net gain of what, 750,000?
We lost a quarter million last year, and I even brought it up on Better Dwelling article that one of the majority of buyers in America are Canadians. Like, the second biggest buyers of foreign investing are Canadians.
Do you think that's where okay, so there's a lot again. So going back to my earlier point of people sitting on the sidelines. Do you think that's where they're going to go next?
Well, they have no choice. If you want to set up a life and lay roots, Canada's not like America. And if you live in Texas, let's say you live in Texas, and let's say you live in Houston. I don't like Houston. I'm moving to Austin. You don't have to leave the state. I don't like Austin. I'm moving to Dallas. I don't like Dallas. I'm moving to, there's
Corpus Christi or something. Yeah, but there's like so many different places you can choose from. Yeah,
in Texas alone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ontario's Fort Worth. You can move to Fort Worth. It's doing well right now. Fort Worth, Texas is doing really good right now for jobs and affordable housing. Katy, Texas. You could move to San Antonio. There's so many places in Texas. You don't have to go to California anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, we got a comment here from Crazy Tracy in California. She's saying your caller's right, Mike. There is a lot of Canadians moving down here, and my neighbor's Canadian, moved down in 93. And other neighbor upstairs from me is Canadian, moved here in 97. Are moving here. Lots of Canadian license plates, leaving expensive Canada.
Interesting. If that's any indication of a trend going forward, then yeah.
Well, no. What are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, if your life's been on hold for a decade, and you've saved a bit of money, it's like, man, I could go to Sarasota, Florida, and buy something for $200,000.
Easy, yeah, and you get much more bang for your buck.
Exactly. It got nice weather, and it's I don't know. Anyways, Moby, I'm gonna let you go because we're headed towards our second hour here. I'm gonna see if I can get the Raven on if he's still awake.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
All right, thanks for calling, Mike. Appreciate it.
We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, take
Bye.
care. Okay, bye.
Dylan saying I could chat with you. Where's Dylan? Let me see Dylan here. Dylan's here. Where are you? He said I could chat with you. Hold on. Somebody, I think I'd like to add you on Skype. Oh no, this is Victoria. This is somebody else. Okay, let's call Victoria. Victoria ain't picking up, so anyways, guys, so there's a lot of animosity, a lot of, it's going to be a lot of finger pointing when the amount of... Hello?
Are you there, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what topic do you want to cover? This is Middle World.
Oh, okay. What's your handle again? Metal World. Oh my God! Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Right. So, anyways, my fiance Victoria, she does tons of fun stuff with you, and brought up Portugal, Lisbon, and all sorts of rad stuff. And we are very impressed with your work and what you're doing and what you're bringing up for the consciousness, like just for everything. Good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You said you're Victoria?
Yeah, my fiance is Victoria, and
Your fiance
real
is
world.
Victoria. I thought you lived in Victoria, BC. I'm sorry.
No. We're in the Okanagan. You're in
Okay.
Merritt, and it's so interesting finding. I'll be honest, dead honest, like the '08 thing. Everyone and all of my personal contacts that knew what was going on were out of the White House. They were federal investigators, clients around the world, and to find someone like yourself who figured stuff out, got yourself to Merritt. Very impressive, by the way.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you very
Very,
much.
and my most important thing, so sorry about your father. And
Yeah.
it's great that you have your mother with you and then you're still doing videos. It's like that's rough stuff. And personally, I am a widower from my last girl of 19 years, ovarian cancer, and life gets rough. And you know what? It does. And you're doing great work. You're carrying on, and you're all heart and soul.
Yeah.
We very much appreciate that.
I'm sorry about the
Good
loss,
work.
the big loss there. Huge loss in your life there. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. Lots of things happen to a lot of people, right? So at the moment, I don't live in a tent, and a shout out to anyone who's on their phone and trying to figure out their life, and they are now in a tent city, whether it's Edmonton or anywhere else. So what can we say about any of this? So where do you want to go with the conversation? Do you want to go about gold? Do you want to go about housing, life?
Well, tonight's trends in the housing market. So let's talk about housing and how come, and then I want to go on the more political. Okay, first question. Do you believe that because England is ahead several years in basically bidding for rich investors, right now, more than 8 million people in England live in unsustainable housing. It's phenomenal, the amount of emails I get from the UK and the people living basically, and they're average wage earners too. They're not like minimum, or they're like average wage earners. There's one lady who's a teacher and she's living in a slum. So are we going to start catching up to England in time and start becoming more eroded?
Well, anyone who's lived in Canada, you've been here for some time, and your family and everything. There was a guy who had an investment business in England, and his window overlooked a bridge, and it was probably 5 years ago now. He's like, no one's reporting on this. People walked out onto the bridge and dove off every day as he's trying to work, and it was depressing for him. And no one reports that. They're just going to a missing persons file. So is England eroded? Yes. Is the banking system? Why is Brexit happening? What about Deutsche Bank? So the real story is that if England separates, then the investment structure of the EU and all of it, which Goldman Sachs went in and put in originally, and then with Greece had too much debt, but they had their own currency at the time. So it was low compared to everyone else's currency, and tourists went there. So then what happened after 08, 09 is Italy owed Spain $1 trillion. Spain owed Italy $1 trillion, back and forth. No one wants to cancel these debts. No one wants to function. So, as far as Britain is a financial house of the transatlantic region. America is the warhead of said transatlantic region. And was I surprised when Bush Sr., after he was no longer president, after, well before, what year was he president? He was knighted by the Queen, and he did one stay of 4 years. And then all his son said was, well, I got 2 terms, unlike my daddy and stuff, right? So, but he was knighted by the Queen because the transatlantic region is its own region. So that's what happens. So right now what's happening with the UK and England is they're the banking house, and they are in full control of all currencies. So,
and they control and manipulate the price of gold too?
Well, the CFR, Council of Foreign Relations, the Queen is full head on, and she has been calling for, I'm going to say this, okay, I don't like to talk about this, a 90% reduction in the human populace for 8 years. So anyways, like it's ugly. Like it's not nice, and I don't want to talk about too much truth. But anyways, sorry, what did you just say?
No, I just said that.
Gold. Oh, yeah.
Damn, I
Okay.
forgot what I was saying. I said
No.
that because I'm just listening to you, so I'm just.
Yeah, Mike. Okay, so gold and silver and everything. So
Yeah,
what
they manipulate the price of gold too. England is basically the economic, I guess, gateway into Europe, and so is Hong Kong into Asia.
Right, Mike. Okay, so I've been doing this for a long time. Yeah, like just doing my life. Like not, I don't engage these things, but to be honest, it's a relief to be talking to you right now. You do the best work that's out there. You do it over Dave, who has his own channel, and he's up to like almost 2,000 videos since the crash. Christopher Green lost his mind or something.
MTV.
I know.
That guy is amazing when it comes to like switching. Like that guy could go from talking to going into Bitcoin, and then 2 days later puts up a video, guys, the world's gonna end in 2 days, and I'm really scared. And then buy my bug out bag, and then go back to crypto course, and then crypto goes below $4,000, he disappears. Then he comes back and resurfaces when crypto skyrockets.
Mike, we love you so much. All of your viewers, listeners, and you know what? Victoria found you, my fiance. So she's caught up so fast. I met her a couple of years ago, and I can't even explain. Like you run a high IQ bat range, like huge, right? Fine. Okay, Christopher Green leaning on a Lamborghini, going on Bitcoin rich. I know. So basically, what we're looking at, and I'm different from people you have on your show and stuff, but basically what happened with currencies is with Nixon, and it was, what's his name? Kissinger. And he went around the world. Governments don't run the world, okay? Like, obviously, it's a conglomerates, but everyone got put on the oil currency. So the U.S. was the world's creditor, and then in 1972, that was Hubbard, who worked for Shell, who said the U.S. is going to peak in oil production in 70. It was 72. It was affirmed. So then they had to own everyone else's oil, and they did that with military and everything else. So they went off the gold standard under Nixon.
They had to go off the gold standard in 70, 71, 72. They needed to do that because they couldn't afford to go to war on a gold standard. You can't go to war. You know how expensive it is to go to war with the world?
Well, but everyone borrows money. So then they used Japan horrifically. They pushed them to zero interest rates. And then Japan, with the yen trade thing back in the day, like 90s, like they collapsed, and they're like,
they're still in a zombie nation mode still to this day.
Why? Because the states told them for them to buy anything, they had to, because everyone was buying like their currency to invest in the U.S. So, this goes on and on. Like it's an endless thing. Right now, where we're at. Okay, let's just get, Mike, you're smart as anything. Like I respect you, your wife, your family, so much. And do you get this? Yeah, few people do. Few people been looking at it long enough to even understand. Peter Schiff doesn't always talk. Like Gerald Celente predict. Okay, so I'm the guy, to be honest. So in 07, September, October, I predicted that the first trading day of 08 would be horrific, and the Dow came down 600 points. Every time the Dow, January 6th to the day, and every time someone predicts and they're like, oh, so worst trading day? No, 08 was terrible. We're still in that, and all they've done is prop up other bubbles, and you've been talking about all of this with everybody. Thing is, what is not a bubble? So you have to go, how do you view your own life? And then you have to go, what's a bubble? What's my job? And it's hard for everybody, right? What's your job? okay, what do people want? What do they need? You know, I'm the biggest supporter of a great economy all day. Record unemployment. I have to sell what I do. It's, you know, it's like, give me a break. Am I guilty of that? All day, right? I gotta live. But basically, the reality and the structural integrity of the financial system has been energy. So for Canada, we used to be able to throw a hole in the ground line on melting permafrost to connect the pipelines in, was only to heat sand to create